Well, good afternoon. It is officially 3 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone to our December monthly virtual webinar. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We're glad you're here. We appreciate your time this afternoon. If you have been on a previous webinar with us, welcome back. My name is Julie Love. I work in the recruitment area of the Illinois Department of Revenue, and on the phone with me as well as Brent Stice from our interview and selection team, and also Millie Atkins. And Brent and Millie are going to help with questions in the chat. We have a very large group today. We have 1,023 people registered for our event. So my goal for today, for the next hour, is that we don't break WebEx and we can make it through. Because of the large volume of people, we do have everyone muted, and we would ask that you put your questions in the chat box, and we'll try and keep up with those as we go. We'll also try to allow some time at the very end for questions as well. We've done these seminars for a couple of years now. We try to vary the topic each month. Sometimes we're looking for a particular job title, so the focus will be on the audit program, and we'll have folks from the audit team on here to join us. Depending on schedules, we try to do them monthly. This is by far the highest volume of attendees that we've had, and for that reason, I want to clarify a couple of things. Today's session kind of melds together several other sessions that we've done individually. So for example, we've done one strictly on networking. We've done one on how to create a profile in the SuccessFactors system. We've done one on interviewing, and today kind of melds them all together. I do not have jobs that I'm handing out today. So this is not a career fair. It's not an interview for jobs. So I want to make sure I'm very clear up front, because I've had a couple of emails over the last week from folks thinking that today was like a live career fair where you could get on this call and then at the end you would have a job. That is not what we're doing today. We're going to talk and give you tips on how to hopefully get a job with the state or someplace else. And I had one person who thought that I could really help them get a job, put in a good word, go to the boss, say nice things about the person, and that would really help them get the job. And while I'm happy to do that, it makes no difference. And I don't have that kind of pull here at the state of Illinois. So I'm sorry if that disappoints you. If this is not what you thought it was going to be, I won't be upset if you jump off, and we'll give you back some time today. If you are interested in learning some tips and tricks, then please stay on and we will get started. So this is our basic disclaimer that I'm not giving you any kind of tax information. I'm not an attorney. I'm going to simply talk to you today about recruiting, the recruiting process with the state of Illinois, and also some for-private tips in here. So mission of IDOR. Usually we can spend a whole hour talking about the Department of Revenue and the benefits we offer. I'm going to go through this section pretty quick. I will point out that the seminars workshop is recorded. So if you want to go back and listen to it or get resources, it will be on our webpage in about a week. So the mission of revenue is to basically collect and process taxes. We've been doing it since 1927 with the first gasoline tax. And over the years, we have now implemented 80 different types of tax. But we are a state agency and we work with taxes. That's pretty much what we do here. The visual you see here is our Springfield location, known as the Willard Ice Building. The majority of our jobs are at this location. The mail comes to this location. This is where everything gets sorted and the mail opened and sorted and put into the various machines that sort and shift and bind and do all the fancy work. And then the various program areas help work on your taxes, your business taxes, the various types of taxes. We do have other locations, and the list here indicates Springfield, the picture you just saw, as well as 2 locations in Chicago, Des Plaines and downtown Chicago. We have Rockford, Illinois, Fairview Heights, and Marion, Illinois. Now we will get a lot of questions this afternoon on, do we have remote jobs? The technical answer is that no job is technically remote. We do have positions that you can work from home. It really depends on the position, the program area, and the person. So you have to be in good standing. There's no performance issues. Some of the program areas, such as audit, most of their work can be done from home. There are some areas like taxpayer assistance where we have people walk up to the window and pay their taxes. Obviously, if I was in that position, you couldn't come to my house and pay me your taxes at my house. So some positions just cannot be remote. It really does depend on the position. Here is an extra. Anything you see with a gift in the top corner is a little bit of an extra. Outside of the state of Illinois, there are lots of companies out now in the working world that are offering 100% remote work. And these are just a few that I found over the last couple of weeks. So if you want to get your phone out and take a quick snap or wait until this is posted on our webpage, again, these are companies that offer remote work or flexible jobs. So you might want to pursue those if you have to have a full-time remote position. Now, IDOR is a professional-minded government entity that values its employees, and we invest in their success through training and engagement, career development. We value diversity, both culturally and professionally, and we believe that it fosters a more productive work environment for us, best suited for our citizens and our taxpayers of Illinois. So we get a question inevitably on one of these workshops if there's an age limit for hiring, and the answer is no. We try to attract the best candidates that can do the job, and it doesn't matter. You know, you can be a unicorn, and if you meet the minimum qualifications and have great skills, we would hire you. So now the next few slides, I'm only going to highlight a couple of things. There's a lot of information here. For the majority of state agencies, the benefits are all going to be the same. We are no different than CMS or Department of Corrections. We all have the same benefit package from the state of Illinois. Some jobs are different, and one of the things I like to point out on this slide is the 37.5-hour work week. So when we say work-life balance, we truly mean work-life balance. Occasionally during tax season, there might be the need to work a little bit of extra overtime. Each position is different. Our attorneys here work a few more hours than some of the other staff, but for the most part, you're going to have a 37.5-hour work week. That means you have your nights, your weekends free to do what you want to do. The other bullet on here that I've highlighted is the parental leave. So the state of Illinois now has 12 weeks of paid leave for both mother and father for parental leave. So that is a great benefit that you're not going to find in a lot of other employers. So that's a plus for us. On this slide, the highlight is the very top item, your health, your vision, your dental insurance. There is no waiting period. So on day one, you get those benefits. Next slide, two on here, two great takeaways, our tuition reimbursement program and the retirement. So the first one is tuition reimbursement. And I said the state usually has the same benefits across the board. We are a little bit different in our tuition reimbursement program. We offer up to $5,000 a year in tuition reimbursement. So we'll help you pay for a master's program or maybe finish a bachelor's degree. We have many of our employees that take advantage of this benefit and utilize it and obtain degrees. Millie on our call today is one of those employees. So it's a great program that you might want to think about. And then retirement. This is a trend right now in the recruiting world that new graduates, the XYZs and the alphas are looking at jobs that actually offer a retirement or a pension. They've seen their parents work long and hard. Some of them have those pensions, some of them don't. And that's the number one thing that new hires are asking for. They want a job that offers a pension, and the state still offers a pension. We also offered the deferred comp plan, which is an extra program that you can participate in that also helps with retirement. So we have two investment vehicles. Career potential at IDOR is one of them that I love to talk about. We have so many of our frontline supervisors and upper management that started out in trainee titles. We'll talk about those briefly today. They start in those trainee titles, they work their way up, and then they end up getting promoted into senior leader positions. When you think about it, taxes are a very unique um, uh, law and process, and not a lot of people have a lot of tax knowledge. So when you start with revenue in the trainee title, you gain that knowledge and you keep learning and growing as you move up. So that's why many of our supervisors are where they are, because they've continued to learn and grow in their career here and have received promotions. So it's one thing that we are super proud of here at Revenue. There are additional voluntary benefits with the state of Illinois. These are offered from CMS. You do have to pay a premium or some type of a fee for these benefits, but they are available for you and our employees. Another one of the greatest benefits that the state of Illinois offers is through the Central Management Services, or CMS agency, and it is their career counseling program. CMS offers a couple of different programs, as you see here, the Disabled Worker Training Program and then the Veteran Outreach Program. The one that most employees don't know about is the career counseling, and basically you can set up a time, either a phone conversation or via email, and meet with the counselors that work at CMS. They will review your resume and give you feedback on the types of jobs that you would be the most qualified for. It is a free service, so you can email them at this email address, or you can go online and call them, and they are super happy and super helpful in helping you find the perfect match for you with the state of Illinois. Now, a question comes up. It is December, almost Christmas time, and a lot of times people will say, does it make sense to apply for a job during the holidays? And here's some things to think about if you are actively looking for a job. Again, this whole workshop, you take from it what you want, use what feels comfortable, whatever you don't worry about. You won't hurt my feelings. Studies have shown that in a lot of cases, companies deprioritize hiring over the holidays for a couple of reasons. They don't have staff in that can work the job posting or set up the interviews, and they realize that people really don't want to do it during the holiday season. It's just too busy with everything going on. Now, does that mean you can't apply? Absolutely not. The key takeaway here is that if you do a mass mailing and send out your resume to 1,000 different companies for job openings, you may or may not hear back from a lot of them. And a recent studies show that 72% of applicants that do have what we call job jitters, they get a little bit of stress, maybe some anxiousness in applying for jobs, and you already have that. And if you send out 1,000 resumes and you hear nothing, that's just going to add to potentially what's wrong with me, why am I not hearing, and you're going to get frustrated. So just keep that in mind, that if you send out resumes during this month, you may or may not hear back. The question then pops up, well, what do I do? Do I just take the month of December off and not look? And my answer would be, I would encourage you to do things that will help you find a job. So for example, you could take a class. I'm going to give you some free resources in a couple of slides of classes that you might be interested in. You could go to your local community college and take something, a weekend short session class. You could volunteer. It is a great way to network. It is a way to get you out of the house, be around people, give back in your community. And don't forget the temp agency. So if you're not working right now and you're anxious to get a job, think about going to a temp agency and applying. This has a couple of different benefits for you. It will expose you to many different types of not only jobs, but organizations. So it's going to help beef up your resume when you come back in January and start applying for those jobs, because you may get experience someplace that you normally wouldn't ever be able to get a job with that company. So think about temp agencies. It's a great time. It's very part-time or non-committal, so you could work, the days that you need to work, and there's flexibility there. The other thing on here is from mid-January to March is prime time hiring. So whatever you decide to do in December, Make sure you're ready to go in January, because the first 3 months of that new year's quarter is when most organizations have completed their budgets, they're ready to go, and they are very, very actively looking for new hires. In the spring, evaluate again. Let's see how many resumes you've sent out, how many interviews you've been invited to join, how many job offers you've had. If you think you can do better, then reevaluate your resume, maybe tweak it a little bit, meet with a friend or family and do some practice interviews and see if they can give you some feedback on some areas that you might want to tweak before you go back out there. Now, let's talk a little bit about the difference between public service resumes and private. And by private, I mean anything outside of the state of Illinois. So it could be Macy's at the mall, it could be Walgreens, it could be an insurance company, it could be one of the big 4 firms, accounting firms in town. It is a different process applying for a job with any external or for business private organization versus the state of Illinois. So we'll go back and forth between these two a little bit. The number one biggest difference in for business, for a private industry versus state of Illinois is the size of your resume. So when you're looking at those jobs, let's say Walgreens, you're going to go apply, you want a 1 to 2 page resume. That's it. The state of Illinois, the more, the better. You want every job you've ever had, going back to high school, any jobs in college, and you want detail on those jobs. So you don't want just a quick summary and a couple of bullet points. You want all the details on there. Basically, a human is looking at your state of Illinois resume and analyzing it and looking at what skills and education and experience you have, and you're getting points for that. So the more information you have on that resume, the higher points you will receive. Again, if you have knowledge or experience, but you don't enclose it on the resume, you don't get points for it. So you want to make sure that you're very, very thorough when you put together your resume for the state. We are not able to contact you on any missing information from your resume. So if you assume we know, we don't. So you want to make sure that you put it on there. And also be careful when you use the SuccessFactors software. If you do load your resume on there and assume that it's going to parcel over 100%, you would be incorrect in that. So if you do use that feature, you just want to make sure that you review the information in your SuccessFactors profile to make sure that it all transferred over there correctly. The third bullet on here says, right, is if the person reading your resume has no prior knowledge of the jobs you've performed. If you assume that the person looking at your resume is going to also be the same person looking at your application, you could be incorrect, and we'll get into that. But you want to make sure that your resume is fully detailed, and then when you apply for the position, you use the same detail. What I would encourage you to do is create a Word doc, take the resume you may be using, that 2-pager, explode it, and then use that Word doc to cut and paste when you apply for the position. Here's a brief example of my personal one. Here is my external, the first part, my job here at Revenue. You can see I list my employer, state of Illinois, the agency, my title, and then a real brief 1-sentence overview of kind of what I do here, and then the highlights and the accomplishments. They're quick bullets. Serve on a committee chair for DEI, created, conducted exit and stay interviews for over 150 employees, expanded recruiting relationships by 30%. If you jump down a little bit, you'll see chair health and wellness committee and offered one-on-one health and wellness coaching. Created a business education partnership with local community colleges for 100 employees that are participating in that program. So there's lots of data in there. There's lots of information that an employer would see what I've accomplished. I didn't just put the factors from my job description that indicate what I do. I've said what I have accomplished in this job. Now, this example shows you my resume for the state of Illinois. There's no, it's a different format. It is in more paragraph form, and it is in much more detail. So I took all of those bullets from this section and I expanded them and gave more detail in this section. So I hope that makes sense. Now, another trend that we look at in recruiting is what skills employers are looking for. And some of these are pretty basic. You'll recognize many of them. Things like teamwork and problem solving, those usually come up every year on this list. The interesting one for 2025 is empathy and communication. So that is a big area that employers are looking for on candidates. Show where or how you have utilized those skills. So don't just list these on your resume. Give examples of how you worked on a team, how you used your creativity. The second slide shows some additional skills that are hot for 2025, your work ethic, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and time management. Again, you can list these on your resume, and if that's what you decide to do, that's great. I think you get more bang for your buck if you can show an example of a time when you juggled multiple priorities, you had 3 or 4 major projects, and this is how you kept track of all of them and how you met your performance requirements. So don't just list time management, show them how you utilize those skills and what the outcome was. We often get asked about translating your skills from things that you were maybe doing that are outside of the normal realm of a job. So for example, sometimes high school, college kids, young adults might have a lawn business while they're in school. Or you might be helping take care of an elderly parent and you think, well, I haven't worked for the last year, or I didn't really work at a job at a company. I just mowed grass for my dad for his grass cutting company. Those are still good job skills, and you still want to make sure that you indicate that on your resume. So instead of just saying, talk to my neighbors for feedback, or started with one neighbor and now mow the whole block, you can turn these two tasks that you were doing into job relatable job functions. So now you could possibly indicate you used your customer service skills to build relationships and earn referrals. You grew your client base from 2 homes to 10 homes in 6 months. Again, there's that data to show what you accomplished. It wasn't just you did it on the block, because I'm reading your resume and I don't know how big your block is. Home health assisted the client with maintaining food and medication while using first aid standards, and maintained a daily log of medication and activities. So take those job skills that you've been doing and utilize those to your advantage on your resume. Now, earlier I mentioned a free training. There are a lot of organizations out there offering free training, and you don't, it depends on what you're looking for. A lot of times candidates will ask me, does it really matter? And we're going to talk about that when we look at the minimum qualifications and the preferred qualifications. But the answer is yes, it absolutely does matter. Here are some organizations that offer free training. I'm going to give you a couple extra slides as well. The University of Washington is offering a free introduction to public speaking. You might want to look at how to succeed at writing applications at the University of Sheffield. The next slide should be, yes, empathy and emotional intelligence at work. That's one of the key skills that employers are looking for at 2025. So you might want to brush up on your skills. It's free. Again, this call is being recorded and this will be placed on our website so you can go back and obtain these resources. Now let's transition into the state of Illinois. Over the last week, as you've registered for this program, I've received a lot of emails from attendees that have asked, are these jobs with the state or just revenue? And the answer is both. The state of Illinois is the one employer. We are one agency for the state. You can search for jobs a couple of different ways. This is the main landing page for the state of Illinois, and it's Work for Illinois. And you can get here, and as an external applicant, you can click on that first button on the bottom that says External Applicants. You could also go kind of right up in the middle of the second blue bar at the very end where it says Current Job Postings. And if you click on that, it'll ask you again, are you internal or external? If you already work for the state, you obviously would click internal. If you are not currently working for the state, you would click the external button. This is the first couple of jobs that's posted live right now with the state on their main page. And here is the next two slides will focus on a little bit more detail. So let's say, for example, you want a nursing job and you want to work at Department of Human Services or Department of Corrections or Veterans Affairs. You can click that blue hyperlink that says show more options right in the middle of the screen in that yellow box. And once you click that, it takes you to the top yellow box where you can break it down by agency, by bilingual options, a posting group, or a class title. You can get pretty detailed here. So let's say, for example, you wanted a specific agency, you would hit the drop-down menu, and then the bottom box shows you, I selected the Department of Central Management, or CMS. I'm looking for jobs at just that agency. So you can get pretty specific in the process. If you want a job with revenue, we would love to have you. You would go to tax.illinois.gov, and this is the main landing page for us. Once you would click on About IDOR, the very first drop down, you would then click on Career Opportunities, and it will take you to a page that looks like this. And hopefully in early January, mid-January, our page is going to look different. We are in the process of redesigning it to make it a little more user-friendly. But for today, you would go to job posting. That is the next click for you. And once you click that, you would land here. And you'll see the jobs that are posted today live for the Department of Revenue. Now, the key in the state of Illinois hiring process is you have to apply for the job when there's a live posting. If I click on that first job title, a collection tax specialist 1 Spanish speaking, and I decide I don't have time today to do it, I'm going to come back to this in a couple of days and apply. If I've missed the closing date, I've missed the opportunity to apply. So you want to make sure that you look at the closing date and some key critical information that we're going to go over. Now, before we get there, I'm going to encourage you to do one thing. Most important thing is once you click on this job that you're looking at and you click on the posting and it pops up, save a copy, either print it out or save it on your desktop, somehow save it. You will want to come back to that job posting. And again, we'll talk about why. But you want to make sure that you save that job posting. You also want to make sure you read the job posting and you're looking for keywords. You're looking for potential interview questions. You're looking for potential application questions. So read the job posting. You really want to make sure you pay attention to the section labeled requirements or qualification, because you have to meet the minimum qualifications for the job in order to proceed. So let's get into a little bit more detail. If I clicked on one of those links earlier, this one is for a legislative assistant, and the key elements on this job posting would be that closing date. We've obviously missed it for this one. It closed on December 11th. So if I went out there today and tried to apply for it, I would be sadly disappointed. So it's closed. So that's where you want to check on all the jobs you're interested in to make sure you apply before that close date. You also want to look at the county. This one says Sangamon. If it says Cook, that job is in Cook County. That means I would have to leave Springfield and move to Chicago to take that job if I were offered the job. So please pay attention to that. And lastly, the number of vacancies. This one only had 1, but there are multiple times when we do our trainee large class hires that number could be 60. So you want to pay attention to that as well. This is the details of the job posting, and again, highlighted in yellow are those what we call min quals and preferred quals. So the minimum qualifications are what you have to have in order to be considered for the job. And in this case, it is a 4-year degree, preferably in public or business administration. It will tell you in the job posting what the degree requirement is. The second one is they're looking for someone with 1 year of professional experience in public or private organization, or completion of an agency-approved professional management training program. If I don't have either of those two, I shouldn't apply for this job. If I do, I'm going to get an email pretty quick that says, sorry, you don't meet the minimum qualifications. Now, next below, you look at your preferred quals. And the easiest way to explain this is, if we get 100 applicants and they all meet the minimum qualifications, how do we winnow that list down? And the way we do that is with preferred qualifications. So you want to look at those preferred quals and see how many that you have that you can speak to. So for example, if I have 2 years experience assessing and researching taxpayer accounts in Gentex, I would want to make sure that somewhere in my answer when I apply for this job or somewhere on my resume, that information is there, if it is true. The same thing with basic proficiency with Microsoft Access or similar database software. I would want to make sure that that is not only on my resume, but also in my answer on one of the questions. You also want to look at these preferred quals and min quals to see if you could think of any potential questions they might ask you in an interview if you're granted one. So that's why you want to save this job posting when you click on it and you start reading through it. Hope that makes sense. Now, once you get in, nope, wait a minute, not yet, the bottom of the job posting, it's going to give you the schedule, date and times, the location, any contact information, and then the most important thing is that little red box in the corner that says apply. So at that point, you would hit apply. Now, before we get there, I want to focus on 2 job titles here at Revenue. The first one is the Revenue Auditor Trainee title, or what we call RAT. This is one of our most popular positions here at Revenue. We just hired a large class. We offer this at least once a year and sometimes twice a year. You can see on here, you would be reviewing taxpayer books and records to ensure tax obligations are met. You work directly with either taxpayers or business owners. It does require a bachelor's degree, and it is in the union with what we call semi-automatic promotions. The second title that we hire for frequently here is what we call a revenue tax specialist trainee, or an RTS. We have this job title in all 4 of our forward-facing tax areas. So account processing, audit, taxpayer services, collections, and then also in our investigation unit, and a few in other units throughout Revenue, but the 4 big ones are the 4 forward-facing program areas at Revenue. You're learning all kinds of information in this job title. You could be dealing with taxpayers on the phone. You could be dealing with them with written correspondence. The key on both of these positions at Revenue is that we train you 100%. You don't have to know anything about taxes. You simply have to meet the minimum qualifications, and any preferred qualifications you would have would help you secure a position with Revenue. There is no interview. I think I said that. It does require a bachelor's degree, and it is a union position. Now, with that, we're going to transition into, oh, nope, not yet. First, we're going to talk about non-state trending job titles. This is how businesses out there are getting very tricky in how they're posting their jobs. So keep this in mind when you're out there looking, searching for jobs, if you're not strictly looking for the state. Basically what they're doing is they're combining a lot of positions together and giving them new job titles. And it's not always clear exactly what the job would entail. So that first one is marketing data scientist. You read that and, immediately I think, well, what the heck? Maybe this person is doing market research, or is it a scientific job? You don't know exactly what that is. And basically this is a project manager in a marketing organization. So they're merging or melding kind of two different job functions together and coming up with new job titles. Some of them are kind of interesting. Some of them you've heard maybe before, that chief sustainability officer or chief digital officer I've heard of before. The head of remote employee experience was something brand new. So just make sure if you're looking outside of the state that you pay attention to those job titles. It might be two jobs packed into one. Okay, if you have not already, one of the first things you'll need to do if you want to apply for a job with the state is set up a profile or an account in SuccessFactors. It's very, very easy. You can click on a job, and when you hit apply, basically, if you have not already set up your profile, you'll need to go in and do that. You give them basic information on there, an email address, your basic name, demographic information. You can upload your documents here. If you have transcripts, many of the jobs for the state do require that you provide your transcripts, so you would want to put those on here, as well as your resume on here. Again, basic information that you would be giving. I want to go back a minute and make sure that we talk about the email address you give. Make sure it is an email address that you check regularly, because if you are granted an interview, you are not contacted by phone for that interview. You are sent an email notifying you that you've been selected for an interview and giving you dates and times to select for your interview. If it is an email that you don't check regularly, or if the email from the state would go to spam, you're going to miss that opportunity. So you want to make sure that you utilize an email that you're going to have access to. If you leave the country for 2 weeks, we're not going to wait for you. So make sure that you have the right email in your profile. Talk briefly about locations. You want to provide 2 or 3 different locations that you would be willing to work in. Earlier I said if I applied for a job in Chicago, I would have to move there, and that is correct, but I might be willing to do that. My friend's son really wanted a job with the state. He couldn't get hired in Springfield. He applied for a job up in the Quad Cities, got hired, went up there, met his probationary period, got some time in the job, and then he applied for a different job with a different agency back in Springfield and was successful in moving back. So you got to get creative sometimes, but you do want to make sure that you do put some different options in there on your geographic location. Basic information on previous employment section. You want to make sure you put all of your jobs in there, and then you also want to make sure you put any certificates, licenses that you have. You would add those in here as well. And then finally, your education section, you would fill out with any degrees that you have, or any type of certification. Now, once you hit that apply button, once you've set up your account, or if you already have it, let's talk a little bit about how to answer these questions. And a lot of people get hung up on this. The question says, this position requires completion of 4 years of college. Are you able to meet the requirement? And if you simply answer yes, you may get tossed out of the running. We need to know more information. So you want to say, yes, I've completed my bachelor's degree in business administration from the Lincoln University and a major in human resources. Please make sure that whatever answer you provide here matches your resume, because if I am trying to look and do a cross-reference between those two, and it's not the same information, there's a high probability that you could get tossed out of the running. So that's why I suggest create a Word doc, put everything in there. You can cut and paste, and then it is consistent. We have a couple more questions here to run through. Do you possess any DEI certifications? Yes, I completed the Diversity and Inclusion certificate program at Cornell in 2020, and I have an active membership with People Managing People at Cornell University. So again, I've answered that question very thoroughly, and it matches in that bottom box. That's taken directly from the resume. So the information is consistent in my application and on my resume. Make sure you're specific with titles and duties. Do you possess prior experience working at a public governmental entity? And it should be yes. In the example, it got marked no. Please describe what your experience working at this governmental entity consists of. And you can see the answer there. Worked as a human resource specialist for the state of Illinois, Department of Revenue, blah, 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 blah. But if you go to that section on the resume, it supports what the answer is on the application. Probably the $64,000 question I get asked when recruiting is, why does it take so long to get a job with the state? I understand, I get it. Sometimes it can be painful. You need to keep in mind there are many, many, many steps involved in the hiring process, and we do that to make sure that we are above board and always above board, and there's nothing hinky going on. So the green boxes are the agency, that would be IDOR, and the blue boxes are CMS, one of our sister agencies. And you can see that there are 12 steps in the hiring process. And we can't say, oh, sorry, we just don't want to do that second row, third green box. We just don't want to do that. So we're going to skip that step. Nope, you got to go through all of them. So there is a cycle. Once you hit apply and you submit your resume, you have to wait till the job is done and closed. The posting comes down. The resumes all have to be reviewed. They have to make sure you meet the minimum qualifications. And so that process takes a while. If it is a position that we have 10 candidates, it can go a little faster. But if it is a position that we have 100 or sometimes 200 applicants on, it can take a little while. So the key takeaway here is to just be very, very patient. Now, the hiring process. We will contact you for an interview or an offer. If you go through that lengthy process and you make it to the other side, we will either reach out to you via email and say we would like to talk to you and schedule an interview with you, or Millie will call you and say, hey, you applied for one of our trainee titles, and I'd like to talk to you about that opportunity. Again, it can take sometimes 4 to 12 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, depending on the position. I mentioned this earlier. If you don't meet the minimum qualifications, you'll get an email that lets you know that, and pretty quickly. Let's talk about the interview. So interviewing for the state of Illinois is a little different if you've not done it before. It can be a little bit of a shock to you. And this is one area we get a lot of questions on. People come back and say, wow, I was not prepared for that. So again, if there's anything that this workshop helps you do, hopefully it will be to prepare for your interview. And when I say prepare, I'm asking you to please prepare for the interview. Don't assume if you get an email today that says, hey, Joe Smith, we want you to come in next week and talk to you about this storekeeper 2 job, that you can just show up and wing the interview. I want you to put some energy and effort into the process. It will help you on the backside, trust me. So earlier I mentioned reading between the lines on that job posting. So now is when you're really, really happy that you printed or saved that job posting, because now that you've been notified you have an interview, and if you've been applying at, 100 different places and someone calls or emails you and says, hey, do you want to come in and talk to revenue about this position? You're thinking, I don't remember this job. So you go back to that job posting and you can look and see, oh yeah, okay, this is what this job does. You want to do your homework on the agency and be prepared to show evidence of what you have learned. Do some information research, look at the web pages, find out what the agency does, how many employees they have, what you might be doing in the job. You want to make a cheat sheet that lists the top personal qualities you want to convey. So the example was the most difficult or work school related situation with which you've dealt with. So you want to be prepared to have an answer to that type of a question. If the job posting talks about things like judgment or confidentiality or decision making, creativity, you want to have some examples of jobs that you've done where you have used those skills that you can give an example. So yeah, I remember a time on judgment. It was during the pandemic and we didn't know what to do, and I made a decision and I called the employee and and you give examples of what you did. So if you think about a couple of different examples that you can share with the interview, that really helps. Rehearse your interview. Either practice in front of a mirror or with a friend. And you say, oh, that's pretty corny. I don't want to do that. Trust me when I say it will help you, because the more you say it out loud, the more it's going to be really familiar to you. You're going to be nervous in the interview. And if you've practiced, it really, really shows. Next, make sure you have a good spot where the internet works. So the interviews will be conducted via WebEx, very similar to what we're doing right now. So you'll be on camera, we'll see you. We won't be on camera, or at least most of the panel won't. One person might. You want to make sure that you're familiar with WebEx and that you know how to navigate around there, that you're camera works and that your microphone works. You want to make sure that you dress as if you were meeting in person. You want to make sure you feel very comfortable in front of your camera, and you please, please, please turn off your cell phone and put your pets away. As I said, usually 3 panel members. We lead with an explanation of the process. We'll tell you what we're talking about. This is a job for the recruitment manager for the state of Illinois with the Department of Revenue. It does this, it does that. So we'll give you some information. The questions that we ask are all the same for all the candidates. There are usually around 10 questions. Might be a few less, might be a few more, but generally around 10, all the same. The only thing we can do is repeat the question. If we ask the question and you don't understand what we're looking for and you say, I'm sorry, I don't understand that question, can you explain that? We cannot. So do the best you can. You can ask, can you repeat the question? Now here at Revenue, we put the questions in the chat box so you can read those and you'll have them to visually look at. Some agencies don't do that. So you just need to make sure that you're prepared either way. Again, I can't stress this enough, is assume nothing is known about your background. So you get into this interview and you think, well, they got my resume, I attached that, and they got the application. They know all the years of work that I've done. And they're going to know all of that about me. And so they ask a question and you give a very short answer. Tell me about your recruiting. Oh, I did recruiting at Revenue for 4 years. And that's my answer. You assume they've looked at my resume, they've seen I've done recruiting for 30 plus years and that they know that. They don't. So anything, you have to say it in order for it to be counted. So you want to make sure that you are very specific. Now with that, I think this is the next slide. I'll jump ahead a little bit. They'll tell you in the beginning, we have 1 hour for this interview, or we have 30 minutes for this interview. You need to keep that in mind when you do answer, but you do want to be as very thorough as you can. You have to listen to that question. Sometimes there's multiple parts. Tell me about your recruiting experience, attending job fairs, and sourcing candidates. And a lot of times what happens is you hear the first one and the third one, and you skip that middle one, and you forget to give an answer on that, and you don't get points on that. So you want to make sure that you answer all 3 parts of the question. If you need to go back and chat and look at the question again to make sure you've covered all your bases, that's fine. Let's see, all scores are given based on the interview answers. That's why you have to be so thorough. Utilize the time provided. You don't want to cut yourself short. You're going to be nervous. You're going to talk fast. You're going to forget things. You want to make sure you cover everything and you utilize the time you're given, but make sure you keep that in mind and that you don't go over. If there's 10 questions and you talk too long and they only ask you 5, you don't get points for the other 5 questions, or the minimum point. So you want to make sure that you space your answers out in a timely manner so that you give yourself enough time. Let's see. Make sure to ask questions at the end. And here are a couple of questions that you might want to ask at the end of the interview. Now, keep in mind, some state agencies might say to you, we can't answer any questions at the end because we don't have anyone from the program area that can answer the questions. That could be a possibility. We do not do that here at Revenue. We do have someone on board that for the most part can answer questions. And if they can't, they'll tell you, I'm sorry, I don't know an answer to that. But usually you can ask questions at the end. So here's some examples of some questions that you might want to ask at the end of the interview. Now we'll transition to what to expect after the offer. So at Revenue, there's a fingerprint and tax compliance check. You have to go through both in order to work at Revenue. If you are made an offer, either Millie or someone on the interview selection team, Brent, will call you, make you the offer, and walk you through these steps. Sometimes friends and family out in the public, the community say, gosh, I didn't know I had to do a tax compliance check. Yes, you do. Your taxes have to be in good order, or you have to be making plans to get your taxes in good order in order to work here. We give you a lot of paperwork to fill out, and we ask that you bring that paperwork with you on your first day. When we do these large class hires with 30 to 60 people, imagine the amount of paperwork that each person is bringing, and we have to collect it and collate it and make sure it's all there. If you forget your paperwork, it holds that process up. It delays the orientation day, and it really just wreaks havoc. So please bring your paperwork with you. You're going to have questions on where to park, where do I go, what door do I go in, things like that. Ask the person making the offer to you. If you get a contact name to follow up after the paperwork, check with them. Make sure you're on time your first day. And be prepared for new employee orientation. Here at Revenue, our first day is usually NEO for the majority of your day, sometimes 1 o'clock, sometimes 2 o'clock, depending on the number of people in the class. In NEO, it could be 2 or 3 people, or it could be 60 people. So that kind of depends on how long the new employee orientation goes. Why Revenue? This is my opportunity to tell you what a great agency we are. We are one of the best agencies to work for at the state of Illinois. Very professional, very competent employees. We have a very robust DEI committee that does some great work here for our employees. The other one is what we call our Rec Club, or our Revenue Employees Club, that schedule events. Last week they had Jingle Mingle, where employees come down and have cookies and punch, all kinds of different activities throughout the year. We have on-site daycare in Springfield. We have beautiful offices. It is just such a treat to be here to work in this beautiful location. And we do a lot of work in the communities, public educational seminars for our taxpayers across the state of Illinois. So while some people grumble about paying taxes, it is the law. We have to collect them. You have to pay them. We try to make it the best as we can. And last slide talks about some reminders. So we have these calls monthly, depending on the availability of our team and the topics. Please sign up for job alerts. If you find a job that you're interested in and you didn't get the job the first time, remember, apply early and apply often. You sign up for job alerts so you won't miss that job opening when it pops up. Some agencies have job postings for 10 days only, and so you want to make sure you apply within that 10-day window. If you miss it, you will not be able to apply. Make sure your resume is more than 2 pages if you have that much work. If you've been working for a while, like myself, your resume for the state might be 20 pages long, and you want that to be the case. Please prepare for your interview. Don't just show up. Make sure you do a little bit of homework, find out information about the job, talk to people that maybe work at that agency, have some good questions ready to go, and please, please, please be patient. Almost every agency with the state of Illinois is hiring right now, so it sometimes just takes a little bit of extra time to apply for the state because of the steps in that process. So you want to make sure that you just give it some time and you're very patient. So with that, questions that have come up, Brent, that you have not been able to answer that I might be able to address?
I think I've answered them all. If there's anything I missed, if you want to pop it in now, I've done. Millie had to leave early, so I've been trying to keep up as best as I could.
Okay. Great, thank
Nothing
you.
I don't think I couldn't answer. I let everyone know that I don't think you're able to email them this, so I just keep posting the revenue site to get on. It'll be
Correct.
posted probably tomorrow.
Right. No, it will take a couple of days. So I
Okay.
have to wait on WebEx to send me the download of the recording, and then the OPM team has to convert it and then put it out there on the web page. And with the Christmas holiday, I don't know who is here and who's not. So to be safe, I would say at least the first of the year. I don't know that it would be posted over the next 2 weeks, but I'm hopeful that by the first of the year, early January, that it will be out there.
Okay. And Daniel Rubicek, when will IDOR post rat jobs in 2025? I believe that is June, July. Do you have that?
Let me look a minute and see. I wrote it down. I gotta dig for a second, so bear with me. There's other answers. Oh, I show October would be start date.
October.
Yeah.
Okay, so to be posted in June, July, Daniel.
Yep. So keep in mind that I show maybe audit, RTS,
Yeah,
maybe yeah, the
do you
RTS
have
is an
those?
audit. Yeah, looks like a June 2nd start date. So that'll be early spring that would be posted. And then the rat title would be in October. So it would probably be June, July posting. You're very welcome, Jennifer. Question about networking and finding people that work for the state. One of the best things you can do is be very active on LinkedIn. If you find folks that are out there that are working at an agency and you have questions, you can invite them to meet up or connect on LinkedIn. And you can always reach out and ask them, would you possibly have a few minutes? I have some questions about a job at your agency. Would you be able to help me? They may or may not. But that is one way to do that. And talk to people in the community, people at your church, people in your neighborhood, your hairdresser, your dog walker, just ask around. Do you know anyone that works at this state agency? I'm interested in a job here. And you'd be surprised at how many people know someone who works at an agency that you might be interested in. So always reach out.
Manuel, if you get on the site to apply, you'll find salaries, our salary ranges we offer for each position. There's been a few questions where I just lost it now. Permanent residency, apply for state jobs. The only, we don't sponsor positions in the state of Illinois. We do need a social security number, and that's for payroll, so you can get paychecks. A lot of people really like those paychecks. So
Question asked, does a referral help on getting an interview? And it does not. Now, I will clarify, there are certain jobs within the governor's office that are very political. They are jobs with the governor's office that are appointed jobs. That would help you. So if you know someone and you're interested in one of those jobs, yes, it would help you. A regular job at a regular agency like Brent and I, it would not help you. You have to go through the hiring process. It doesn't matter who you know. You could be related to the Pope and it doesn't matter. Or, whoever. It doesn't matter. It depends on how well you score on your resume, and it depends on how well you score in the interview. So that's really what it comes down to, is the candidate with the highest score is who gets the job.
A lot of people, I got a lot of comments from people that have applied to many jobs and they're just not hearing anything. You just got to keep going. A lot of it, especially for trainee positions, is really the luck of the draw. If 180 people apply and we take the top 25, you won't hear anything. You just got to keep applying. I'm newer to the state, and it took a few applications to get through to qualify for an interview.
Mhm.
And then after that, I bombed the interviews and then just kind of learned from there to get better and better.
I think a question came through about living in Indiana and working for the state of Illinois. Again, you have to come in for the training. The training for all of our trainee titles is in person. It's a classroom and on the job. And sadly, we can't all go to Indiana and train you there. So yes, you would have to come here and go through the training here. Again, some positions can work remote, but you would have to come in for the training on those trainee titles.
Timothy, I'm posting the link again to where to apply, set up your profile.
Question is, how would you approach a gap in your resume? That is really personal, and it depends on how you want to approach it. If there is, it could be anything from taking care of an elderly parent to raising your kids to traveling the world to just needed some time off to do a mental decompression. It doesn't matter the reason, it just depends on how much you want to convey. If you feel like putting the dates on there, so from 2000 to 2002, I was a full-time stay-at-home mom, and you want to put that on your resume, that is your choice so that they can see why that gap was there. If you don't list it on there and they ask you in the interview, again, that's your choice. You can say something as easy as I had to step away or I had to pause my career to take care of some family commitments, and you leave it at that. And I know we are at 4:01, so there are still quite a few questions coming through. Trying to get to as many as I can.
Me too.
So that we can get them answered for you. Would you please show list the remote agencies? It was not Darnisha, it was not agencies, it was just different companies. And they're outside of the state of Illinois. So if you want to focus on the state and a job with the state, then that list was for private industry jobs that were available. So sorry if that was confusing. Anything else in there, Brent?
No. Success factor profile, Patricia, could you please explain again? So I've shared a few times the illinois.jobs2web.com, and you're going to find, you're going to click on job opportunities, look for a job, and the first page that comes up is going to be your profile, and that's where you're going to upload your resume and fill out the information that's asked. That's really it. The first time just setting it up might take you a little time, but after that, as soon as you see jobs pop up that you're interested in, you click on it and that profile is always there and you don't have to redo it. You can redo it, but it makes it a lot easier and you can apply for many jobs quickly.
I'm trying to see if I can.
And you're good, Patricia.
I don't know. I think it was Darnish, maybe, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. If you're still on, here is the slide with the remote flexible jobs. So I'll leave that up there for a few minutes. I hope that helps. Again, we do these calls on a monthly basis. The other calls that we've done throughout over the last couple of years are recorded. They are on our webpage. They answer many of the questions that you all have asked today. So you can go out there and look or listen to those previous recordings. If you have ideas for a seminar that you want or a workshop that you want us to focus on, please feel free to let us know that. We're happy to try to accommodate that. I hope this was helpful. I want to thank my coworker Brent for helping with the questions this afternoon, and wish you all a very happy, magical holiday season. Please take care, enjoy time with your family, be safe, and hope you have a wonderful 2025. So thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.